Hey, everybody, welcome to Between the Lines with Chris Curran. I'm your host, and tonight we speak with speaker, author, caregiver, mother and wife, and autism advocate, creator of Helping Swans, which is a mission to spread disability inclusion through literacy workshops and parent support groups. Helping Swans also raises money for inclusive play, resources, and community. Connect at givebutter.com. For more information, go to helpingswans.com. Ladies and gentlemen, Marlene Soto. How's it going?
Hi. Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Yes, thank you for being on. I love your content and everything you're doing on Instagram. It's amazing following your story. I've been following your story after everything you've been doing, but even in that time frame of seeing what else you're doing, it's such a motivating factor for me as an autism dad to say, all right, keep it moving because people are making moves, they're keeping busy, and you're one of those people. So thank you.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure. It's an honor to be here, honestly. And doing this podcast would be my first podcast with an autism dad. So shout out to you because that's one of the things that when I do content or when I do a hashtag, I'm conscious of not just hashtag autism mom, or I do autism parenting or
Mm.
special needs parenting. And then when I do an autism mom, you'll catch a hashtag autism dad in there because we all relate to this.
Yes, I found out when jumping on Instagram, um, at first with my son's diagnosis, it wasn't kept quiet, but it was to make sure that we could learn the game and what we needed to do to become the best parents that we could while learning as much as we need to. As I'm sure you know, you have to go through the insurance process. There's OT, there's speech, there's so many things and so many steps you need to take as that new parent of the diagnosis. And then I started to share. And I'm like, I have to create some visibility to my circle of people that may not be all that aware of what's going on. And I have to somewhat, quote unquote, normalize autism within my own community to be able to give back, to kind of be the example. And I also found out there's not a lot of dads doing that.
Yes, yes, absolutely. But I love how you said you had to do it so that you can show just your own people because even our closest people don't understand and they have to get a glimpse and they're not at home with us every day. They're only here, but seeing it and getting visuals sometimes works better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've realized too, you know what? 5 years ago, I didn't know anything about autism, and I still don't in comparison. Autism is one of the things that the more you find out, almost the more you can be humbled because it's such a spectrum, right?
Yes.
And you're learning about autism and then your family member. Right? I can't speak to your son or your family. I can only speak for mine. So that's where a lot of that comes in learning as much as you can and then sharing your experiences with people. Now I run into friends and family members outside of this and they're that much more aware of what's going on. And that's what I feel like my purpose is.
Yes, yes, that's great.
So Marlene, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your background and how this started to come about for you.
Well, a little bit about me. I think you did an amazing job introducing everything that I do. But one big key factor that a lot of people don't know is that long before my son came into this world, I was already determined and deemed disabled. So I've been disabled for 16, going on 17 years now, in the sense of no more work, cannot work. So when that title came on me, I never understood my purpose. I just thought that, okay, like God has a plan for me. I can no longer be in law enforcement. I can't work. I can't do certain things. But little behold, the real plan was preparing me for my son. That was just the drive behind the advocacy journey and the patience and the understanding of what it is to go to doctors and insurance and wait lists. And so I've
Oh, yeah.
dedicated my entire life after becoming disabled into what else can I do when I can do it? So I'm a wife, a mom, a grandma, I like to say, and my family drives me to do everything.
Yes, that is amazing. Yeah, when you find out that you have that drive in you, but, you're then labeled disabled, and maybe you don't have the ability to go out into the field, especially in something that maybe you love to do, you end up finding a way to fill that void of, "But I'm still me," right? There's still a piece in me
Yes.
that's ready to go out there and ready to fight and ready to stand up for something that I believe in, and then it starts to come into this, which then becomes very fierce because it's what this community needs. As I mentioned, I'm not just hosting this podcast and having you on. I'm actually a fan of what you do. I'm watching your story and your journey, and I'm learning from that myself. So selfishly, I get to have you on the podcast to pick your brain and talk to you. And you're further along in the journey than I am, and that's what we have to do is build that community. And I'm glad that you put a lot of time and effort into it because I'm all the way in Massachusetts. You might not know that there's an impact there,
Yes, absolutely.
right? The amount of people that
Yeah.
you can reach is amazing.
That's the beauty in social media. We get the the amount of yays and congratulations and thank you for sharing. I also get just as much as why did you put this out there or why do you need to expose so much? So,
Mhm.
um when I hear stories from people that are like, I'm learning from you or thank you for sharing that. I know what that feels like because I've said that to so many other creators. And even if your child is younger than mine, like in our situation, at the end of the day, I'm still learning from people because what you experience, like you said earlier, what I experienced are two totally different things. And I may experience it in the future. I may never experience it with my child, but I may come across it with another child, another person
Mhm.
at an event. I may have said, oh, I've seen this before, or I know this works, so let's try this out. So I'm super grateful for anybody on the receiving end of social media and platforms that give us the opportunity to connect all around the world.
It's amazing. It really is when people are willing to share their journey. It's not just recording, uploading, and posting a video. It's that level of vulnerability too, that
Yes.
you are putting out there because it's with it's with the understanding that your kid's not always hitting that game-winning shot or
Yep.
striking someone out as much as, like, we want our kids to play sports, and we'll get into that because AJ now is, so very,
Yes.
very
Yes.
excited about that, but, it's important for people to see it, whether they understand it or not, whether they like, whether they comment or not, people are seeing it, and the more we can normalize it. I put out a post recently within the past couple months of like, you may not know how to ask, just ask. Don't be politically correct. Feel free to message me and ask me a question. And then the amount of questions that I got, like, hey, my niece is autistic. What's one thing that I can do that maybe I should be more aware of? And it's like,
I
well,
love that.
I don't know your niece, but thank you
Mhm.
for asking. Are there sensory to light, sounds, noise, like any of that stuff? And then you just start building rapport with people and they come back and they're like, it worked.
Yes, I get that a lot. I overtalk. I'm a big extrovert. So even if I'm at my doctor's office, I manage to talk about autism or my son. And I've gotten people that have said, My chiropractor, my niece is on the spectrum, I think, but mom really doesn't know. What can I do to just make sure, I'm doing things right? And I said, simple, learn her like you would learn anybody else.
Mm.
Watch her. If she likes french fries, then next time offer her french fries. If she doesn't like french fries, stop offering her french fries. Just they're going to tell you one way or another. They don't have to be verbal. They're going to tell you what they like and don't like. You just have to listen and watch and observe.
100%. You will find out. There's,
Yeah, one
es-
way or another.
and especially if they're not masking, you will know.
Oh yeah, I've had to dodge a couple foods in the past.
You're like, oh no.
Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. Won't do it again.
Yeah. And so for you, you're an autism mom. Do you remember what the
Yes.
diagnosis process was like for you? Were you aware of it? Were you sure of it? Were there questions?
I am always going to say, listen to your instincts. Um, Only parents that I'm gonna rephrase that. Only parents or guardians that are involved on a day-to-day basis. And I say that because it could be either or dad, mom, it could be married mom and dad, it could be grandma who's raising the child, doesn't matter. Whoever
Mhm.
is the one raising the child, your instincts will be very honest with you and believe them. A lot of people get told they're overthinking, um, everyone is on the spectrum and you're just labeling, or from my experience was the complete opposite in the sense that I did try to get him diagnosed twice at 2 and almost 4 years old, and I was told he did not have autism.
Right.
I was told that he has a rare genetic disease that at that point we knew from birth he had a rare disease, but it was inconclusive, no definitive answer. So I didn't have a diagnosis for the rare condition. So in the state of Florida where I was residing, they said we cannot label him autistic. Um, these can be signs of the rare disease that he has, and not the autism diagnosis. But
Mhm.
something in me said, hey, the way my son lines up them toys, I don't think that's his rare disease. Or the way my son, you know, doesn't acknowledge me. Like there's no facial expression. There was no smile. There was no, um, forget about nonverbal. He was nonverbal till literally right before he turned 4. And there was no nonverbal. But outside of that, he was just blank face. It
Mm.
was walk in the room. I can go on vacation for a week. He didn't even like realize mom is not here. He didn't never cried for anyone. He didn't cry for food. It was just like he would just sit there. And I just knew that was bigger than immune deficiencies or GI issues or heart issues and things like that. I'm like, that's like, I don't know. I don't think it's that part. Very picky in eating. Maybe could have been his jaw. He had an underdeveloped jaw. I said, well, maybe he's not eating certain things because he couldn't for the
Mhm.
first year or so of life. So, maybe he's a little pushback on that. No, and it ended up being ARFID and autism. So I just knew. And what I did was I got him evaluated for the third time in a different state after relocating states. And we got it at 7 years old. And I have the voice note because I press record when they called me on the phone. And she says, are you ready? And I said, yeah. She says, hats off to you for your endless work because she believed, like a lot of other people, because the doctors didn't write the diagnosis down for me, but I never not treated him like he was not on the spectrum. He was on the spectrum to me, which
Yeah.
meant that I raised him like he was on the spectrum. And I got all the help I could get for him without him qualifying for help, either private or couldn't afford private with my disabilities. So I would get courses for me and then go home and implement it and work on my son.
Good for you. Because unfortunately, some people that are on the fence in certain areas, right? If they're on the fence and they receive a diagnosis, or maybe they don't receive one, they continue on. And you can overlook some of that stuff. And the diagnosis, and as I mentioned, kudos to you because the diagnosis is not necessarily just where it starts. Like, because you didn't receive one, but you started. Because
Mhm.
imagine if you had held back for that 3, 4, 5 extra years and didn't do your due diligence and stay persistent and continuously pursue what you knew was right. That diagnosis isn't the day one of them being autistic. When a
No,
parent
I
when a
think that
parent
parents have to recognize that. That's day one.
Yes. Yeah. Because Kayla probably, I don't wanna put an exact timeline, but she was very sure around maybe, like, 16 months, because we had seen a bunch of different signs, whether it was stimming, walking on the toes, same thing you had mentioned, like the lack of facial expression in certain areas. There was a lot of that going on as well, and we had just seen a lot of it, and we're like, "No, it's not, we're not gonna say it's an issue. We know that's who he is." And what it will do with the diagnosis is then provide the services. But similar to you, we were still pursuing it up until when he was 25. His 25th month is when he got it. He was 2 years, 1 month. It was January 27th of 2023 when Cole was diagnosed. So,
Um,
but we had known, and we had started doing our research 6 months before we finally were able to get that appointment for the diagnosis. How was the time frame for you guys? Because you had moved states to try to do that. When you called that other
yeah.
state, do you remember? Was it like a year wait, 6 months?
Oh man, it was way more than a year. My son got diagnosed at 7, and I moved to Florida at 4. I moved to
Wow.
Florida at 4. My son was 4 in, like, 3 months, and we didn't get the diagnosis till 7.
Wow.
Now, granted, I coulda went somewhere private, or I coulda went to a smaller, um, clinic maybe and got him diagnosed way earlier. I just did my research, and I was dating my now husband, and I said, "Well, if I'm relocating my son from states, dad is staying behind in the state of Florida. I'm not gonna do that without giving him the best opportunity,"
Mm,
meaning, like, I built his medical team here at the Children's Hospital in Atlanta. And Marcus Autism Center is a renowned autism center known all around the world and offers a lot of services. And we have other amazing autism centers here. But I said, I will wait it out because I not only did I relocate states, but I already had him evaluated twice. And if I'm gonna get my 3rd opinion, I wanted it to be the most thorough, concrete, ins and outs, covered it all because they've seen it all and they've been around. Um, and that's just what I was compelled to do. And then on the other hand, also because I wasn't desperate, the diagnosis was not going to change the factor of I am training my son. Even
mhm.
when he did get the diagnosis, believe it or not, immediately they were going to say he needs ABA, but his ABA was very different. It was more for social, you know, um, socialization than anything else. Um, but I had already taken courses on behavioral therapy, uh, registered behavioral technician,
Mhm.
and I worked with my son at home. Academically, he's very strong. Even before he can speak, he can do things. And um, when I got the diagnosis, therapies didn't change. He never had to do ABA or anything. And I'm not saying I'm against it because I know there's some people that are, on either side. I'm not against it at all.
Yeah.
I'm actually for it. But in my situation, we were doing well. The difference is that now that diagnosis went into the school system with him, went into his
Mhm.
IEP, and that is where I needed the major difference because at depending his original diagnosis was intellectual disability, but that developmental delay in schools on paper, you age out of that.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't realize you age out of developmental delays and therefore you need something else to cover you.
Yeah.
So the minute I got the autism diagnosis, it was just like, oof, school now. I can now work my way in school and they have to give him everything he needs and accommodate him.
Yes. That's how we felt. It was a little bit of a relief because it not because it was gonna change anything, but we knew what we were seeing, and we knew he was then gonna be eligible to be able to be covered by insurances for all of these, whether you're
Yeah.
choosing ABA or OT or speech or having a neurologist, um, all of this stuff was gonna help. And even in Massachusetts, like, because we are his caregivers, there's also, like, what you can and can't do for jury duty, because
Wow.
you can't be on a case for 3 months if you're a caregiver of
You're
a
right.
special needs
I
kid.
never thought of that. I haven't gotten called for jury duty, can you tell?
Yeah.
But I never thought about that, but that makes complete sense.
It's something like that. You can't take one of the parents out of the home of a special needs kid for 3 months, 6 months. That
Yeah,
kid has needs.
absolutely.
People are working, and I know that that can be difficult, and you wanna do your due diligence and be able to give back to your community as that being a part of it, but there's certain things that you just can and can't do as a special needs parent sometimes.
Yes, for sure.
So in like you, in many ways, you had spoken about grief and the belief that maybe AJ would never be able to play sports. That kind of stems from other beliefs that we'll also get into. But he does play sports now. Like,
Yes.
what does he play? What does he enjoy doing?
He plays for Miracle League Baseball. He says his position, even though in Miracle League, they play for fun, they're not competitive. Well, at least where we are. I know there's some competitive leagues, but he plays shortstop. That's his position. That's what he says. That's what he loves. And
Yeah.
he plays basketball for Special Olympics, which is the Winter Olympics are coming up at the end of January. And funny thing is today he started, after the holidays, they started PE. So he switches, he's in seventh grade. And this is his first PE in middle school. And he's just elated because he played basketball the other day. They got to play about 2 to 3 games. He was a little bummed he didn't score. And he was like, they kept fouling me out. And I was just like, okay. But today he came in the car so excited because he shot 2 3 points shooters. Like he was just like so
Wow.
happy. He's never done that before. Um, and it's a huge deal because I was told he wasn't going to do a lot of things like running or walking, talking, coordination. He has a wheelchair. A lot of people don't know that. He has PFOs, which are the braces for his feet. Um, he has clubfoot that was not diagnosed until 10. Clubfoot was not diagnosed till 10. At
Mm,
11, we got his wheelchair and it was overlooked. It was something that with his medical condition, a lot of the children, their toes kind of curl up and they're kind of deformed. So placing the foot down, even though he has arched feet, the pressure on his feet kind of curled in and he loses a lot of balance.
oh, yeah.
So he also has visual impairments. He has no depth perception. So even he can 9 out of 10 times pour his drink in that cup or pretend he's pouring but really misses the cup or
Mm,
when he's running, he'll think he's cutting that corner and he's like boom every single time and hits and
yeah,
coming down the stairs, even walking, he has fallen down my stairs. In 2025, there was a period that I said, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm Spanish. No more. Like, I'm gonna move you to the first floor because I have a room on the first floor. I'm like, I'm gonna have to switch your rooms because you keep falling down the stairs. And he's like, Mom. And I put a camera and he's like, Mom, I'm not even running. Like, cause he's a kid. He's gonna run down the stairs, go up the stairs when he can.
yeah.
Um, so just seeing him through the imbalance, through today he's running on the court. Tomorrow he may need his wheelchair for a longer walk. He doesn't use it often. We use it when we have to do anything that is lengthy, like airport travel, if
Mhm.
we're going to a park, a theme park, anything like that. He's gonna have to be in a chair because he's just not gonna be able to handle it.
Yeah.
So to see him knowing that it takes like eye and hand coordination or seeing a baseball, knowing he's visually impaired, but he still hits the ball.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. And he loves
That
sports and he loves every sport. And when I tell people how I got him to like sports, we're a big sports family. He didn't even know anything about sports. We would throw Super Bowl parties and he would just exist. And one birthday, I was just like his 11th birthday. I said, Antonio, I am buying you. He For birthdays and Christmases, he says nothing. There is no list. I
Ooh.
create the list. He has no desires. He's a kid that is very happy with whatever is given to him. He's not a demanding child. And I said, I am buying you a PlayStation. And he says, no, you don't have to buy me a PlayStation. I was like, I'm gonna buy you a PlayStation. What I did was bought all sports games. And I said, he gonna learn about
Mm.
sports one way or another. And it took him less than 1 month for him to fall in love with baseball, football, basketball. And now his goal is to be a sports commentator because he says, I may not be able to play the sport like everyone else competitively, and make that money or be on that team. He says, but they're going to pay me to watch the games,
Wow.
to go to the games. He said, and to
That is
talk about the game.
awesome.
Yes.
Oh, I might have to have him on here to talk about sports for a little bit then.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's
Anytime.
amazing. That's amazing. I know we try to do the same thing for Cole. He's still in that realm of not really paying attention, but on Sundays, his grandfather will throw on football and he'll watch. And I think he likes watching all of the players standing still and then everyone breaking off and hitting each other. And I think that kind of fascinates his brain.
Yeah.
Because the thing with Cole too is he's very athletic. He's a tall kid. He was 4 feet tall at 4 years old. So he's
Wow.
a pretty big kid. He fluctuates in weight, but he's around 45 to 50 pounds. So he's a pretty solid young kid.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like bigger than I am because I'm not that. My wife's taller than me. Her family's taller. I'm short, but I played professional baseball. So I played baseball for the Washington
Awesome.
Nationals, and I
Wow.
had always thought he was gonna play baseball as well. And then I've come to realize, even before he was born, that my son doesn't have to play baseball because it's what I did. If he wants to play chess, if he wants to collect rocks, if he wants to be a swimmer, if he wants to be on the band, like, I'm fine with whatever he wants to do. My job as a parent is to fully back whatever he's doing. But now that he's starting to come into sports, I'm not mad about
Yes.
that. I'm like, "Here, man, here's this baseball glove. Put it on your hand. What does that do?"
Yes.
And trying to have fun with it because you just know what sports can do for kids.
I'm gonna tell you, don't give up on your dream and keep
Mhm,
reintroducing him. He may find another sport he loves better. Maybe it's not
mhm.
baseball. He may find that he enjoys going to the games, but not playing the sport.
Ugh.
He may find he likes to watch highlights and not the whole game. But just don't give up because if
Yes.
someone would have told me don't give up, I gave up. In my mind, I want to say I gave up, but maybe I didn't because subconsciously I bought him that PlayStation and then bought him those games. Even my own husband, who loves sports, and they will talk all day. He was just like, "Why? But why buy it for him? He's not going to play with it." He had a Nintendo Switch for almost 3 years and never touched it. It
Mhm.
sat in there to the point where I gave it to my grandson. And after he started playing, he said, "Oh, I know what I want next. I want a Nintendo Switch." I said, "Not the one that I just gave away after 3 years." But then he realized how much fun things are with sports and, he has something to look forward to.
Yes.
And it's constant because, all year there's a sport going on
Yeah.
and there's games. So it gives them something to look forward to all the time.
Yeah. Absolutely. And for him to sit and listen to commentators, um, talking about the game, because we're not all that physically gifted to play at that level on TV anyways. So, but to be able to have that as part of something you do and then to comment on it and talk about it, be around the game, that's amazing.
Yes,
That
it is.
really
It
is.
really is.
Yeah, we'll have to talk because I could have him on here for 10 minutes to talk about sports too.
Oh,
And
he's gonna be excited.
and
He's
I
gonna be excited that you played baseball. He loves that. We in the Miracle League every year they do their World Series and they travel to different states. So depending on the state, this
Wow.
2025 was St. Louis, but 2024 was my hometown, Covington, Georgia, and my husband and I we were team mom and coach, and we were coaches of the Washington Nationals.
That's
So we
awesome.
have all the national stuff, and he was so hyped. He was like, he's a huge Yankee fan. He was like, I'm going to support the Washington Nationals because this is our team right now. So yeah, it was super
Oh,
cool.
yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so I end up talking to some of my baseball buddies and stuff like that. That's always fun to kinda reminisce about the game that we used to play, but we've all moved on, we're all parents and employees and husbands and, you know, living life. But it is amazing to think back on those days of playing the game.
Yes, for sure. I
Maybe
can imagine.
AJ can teach me some things because 'cause I'm still playing for fun now. So,
Absolutely. Why not? Of
I could use
course.
some
If you love the sport, you love the sport.
and you had kinda led into that too about him, like, you not giving up on sports and what you just feel like it would mean to him. How did his capabilities to play sports kinda break down some of those barriers that? Because you were actually told by doctors a list of things that essentially he would never be able to do, like, I'm sure every parent wants to hear that, but, how did he surprise you when he started playing?
So I enrolled my son at 4 years old in Miracle League Baseball. And parents who are listening to this podcast, no judgment, okay? I didn't give him an option.
There you
I
go.
said, we need to pick one hobby. We need to do something outside of school. You're not just going to sit at home on your phone or tablet. We need to have one hobby. And the Miracle League or like Special Olympics, it's low stress as far as it's not competitive. You're not out there 4 days a week in practice. Your games
Mm,
are not from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. It is literally 2 innings. You go out there, each team gets a shot. They end up always with the same exact score. There is no winner. If you hit the ball, you get to run all the bases, come home like you're always a star.
yeah.
It took him 6 years and maybe 6, 7 seasons, 10, 11 years old, where he was like, "Why do we always end up with the same score?" Because he didn't never realize that it was not competitive. But even in the beginning where I had to physically hand over hand, go on the field, hit the ball, run with him holding his hand, because that's what we
Mm,
do with our kiddos. They don't run by themselves. Some parents are pushing wheelchairs. Some kids are visually impaired. So we're like guiding our children through the field.
mhm,
Um, when I realized he's an obedient person, it is part of his nature to do things exactly how he's told and exactly how you show him the first time. Um, one of his beautiful gifts, I like to say. And I I realize he takes it like a job. All right, it's Saturday. What time is the game? 11. All right, he's ready. He goes, he plays the game, he's done. Let's go. Don't ask him to play the sport outside of it. He's not going to do it. He's not going to practice at home. We have a huge field. He's not going to do it. And then one day he did. And then one day he wanted to throw the ball and swing by himself at home. And then one day it was like, can you give me the tee so I can just, sure. Can you give me the net? Sure. I didn't push
uh,
him to play at home. I pushed him to be focused on one hobby. I needed him to find something he liked. And the only way to get out of that hobby, if he didn't want to play baseball, was tell me what other hobby you wanted to do. But you're
yes.
not. And I had that same mentality with my other children who are not um special needs on the spectrum or anything. Like, well, what are you gonna do with yourself? You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
gotta pick something just to find out who you are, what you like. And I'm okay with jumping ship. You want to play the
Mhm.
piano? We'll play the piano. You want to be a singer? You want to be a dancer? Whatever you want. But he never changed his mind. It was always baseball. So it wasn't until years later when I realized now he's playing outside by himself. He doesn't even need a team. He's okay with doing it by himself. I said, okay, he likes the sport and he's doing it on his own. And just consistency, never giving up. I could have easily said, all right, we did the season. He really wasn't into it. No, I'm signing you up next season. And it wasn't something I was taught very young, when he was very young, is giving him option A or B and just, there's a term for that. I don't remember what it is right now, but, stop making it complicated. When they only think that they have A or B, they feel like they are compelled to have to pick an answer, right? And there
Ye
is no in there. And because he's so literal on how he sees things, there is no Okay, well, what if I don't want A or B? Can I just not? No. In his mind, I presented A or B. Which one would you like? So
Yeah.
um, he knew this is what we're going to do. And if you wanted something else, then present me that option. And he never did. And so I just stood with it. I would just be like, what walkout song would you like? And he didn't even acknowledge it for years. He didn't have a say so until one season he was like, I want to come out to this song. Okay.
Wow. No, I 100% agree with you. That sometimes you have to put them into something. "Hey, we're gonna find out. I don't know if you're gonna like this, I don't know if you're gonna hate it, but we're gonna give it a shot. Maybe it's not this, but because we started doing this, it leads to this,"
Exactly.
you know? So, I'm right on board with you when it comes to that. I wanna be able to do that for Cole. I have to find Cole just turned 5 in December, so I have to then find things for him that are outdoor activities here for him to be, to take part in, whether it's soccer, uh,
Mhm.
baseball, basketball, anything.
Yeah.
But we have a trampoline park that he really used to like going to. The issue with trampoline parks is he always wanted to go to the same exact trampoline within the park, and it was like the extreme trampoline. So you would have like all the 13 and 14-year-olds that are doing double backflips and go to gymnastics, and he's just sitting there bouncing on this trampoline. I'm like, "All right, guys, this is what we're doing. Like, you're gonna have to use one of the other ones." And we would be on that same trampoline for like 45 minutes. Loved it.
Wow.
Yeah, loved
He
it.
he knows exactly what he wants, you know?
Yeah, he had fun. It's what he was doing, you know? So earlier you had brought up IEPs and how the diagnosis then gets put into the IEP and there's certain accommodations that can be made. Have you sat through IEP meetings and like what does that kind of been for you? Have you prepared for them? Did you come out of there feeling like there was fair judgment within what he was going to receive for services or accommodations?
I've had amazing IEP meetings. I've had IEP meetings where I didn't know what I was getting into, and I was a yes mom. Yes, okay. This is what you think my son. Okay. And I learned early on to prepare. And preparing doesn't mean, for example, we're in January, prepare doesn't mean, okay, at the end of January, we have an IEP meeting. Let's hurry up and get whatever we got to get. Prepare means like, just like the teacher's watching your child all year long, you take notes all
Mm,
year long of what you see that you may think could help or hinder your child in school. Because if it's not going to help them learning at home, what makes you think in a class of 20 other kids or 15 other kids and one teacher or one teacher in a para, how is your child going to adapt and learn and do everything, right? So
mhm,
I learned to just notes are your best friend. I have a gazillion books. I would write everything down and then I will kind of summarize. Okay, well, I think these things work. I think these things don't work. I think my son's focus is like this. And what if we try these things? You know, if I direct my son this way, he has a hard time. I wonder how hard is he having reading. He doesn't read in his head. He reads out loud. Will they be okay with when he takes his test to be in a separate room so that he can read out loud? He just can't read in his head, you know?
mhm,
Um, so I would bring up all those questions, and maybe I didn't have the answer to the questions or how to address them the right way, but there's no silly questions. So you just have to ask and say, "These are my concerns," and some of them are like redundant, but they'll tell you. They're like, "Oh, actually, that correlates with this." And we are realizing that he's doing X, Y, and Z. And we'll be like, oh, that's exactly what I was trying to say. And so we
yeah,
kind of met each other. There have been incidents where I would always advise parents when they send you the IEP draft, there is a draft that comes out before. And you take that draft and you prepare. You get your little highlighter, you write everything down, you put your little notes. And then when you go
mhm,
into your IEP meeting, you are ready to go. And the reason you need to do that is not just because you need to get all the ins and outs of what's going to be on your child's IEP, but there's going to be things that may be incorrect, like
mhm.
your child's name. happens a lot. You just are copying and pasting kids into things, and all of a sudden now my son's IEP is someone else's name.
Yeah.
It happens.
Mhm.
Um, don't take yes, like everything they did may be exactly what your child needs. I've been in an IEP where they're like, man, spot on. But because everything there is spot on, that doesn't mean they're not missing something. You know what I mean? So,
Correct.
like, you don't go into it looking just for an error, because they may not be an error. They may actually give you amazing advice and plans for your child, but they may
Mhm.
be missing two or three things that only you have really taken note of, or the communication between, the speech therapist and the child's actual teacher, or depending on the grade, like my son who has multiple teachers, there may be a lack of communication somewhere along the lines. So
Mhm.
just make sure you really comb through it.
No, it's great advice for some of the newer parents and, um, existing parents on how to kind of approach IEP meetings, because gathering as much information from one another as you can is such a big thing, because you receive the diagnosis and then you start planning for this world and finding out about IEP meetings and what do we need to prepare for. It's a legal document, but you're not handed a book that's like, hey, these are the things you need to look for in IEP meetings. Study your kid, study what the school district might propose, find somewhere in the middle ground that's going to fit. We're very fortunate with where we are. We're a Title I town. There's In the school that Cole is in, there's a max of 9 kids for one teacher and two paras.
Wow.
So
That's
the
really good.
breakup is amazing. And like you had mentioned, we received the IEP beforehand, combed through it, went over everything. And one of my big things, and my wife does it as well, we find out what they're working on in school, right? That obviously depends on the teacher and the level of communication, but you find out what they're working on in school, and then you also try to replicate it in small ways at home without making it feel like it's 24 hours of school.
Hmm.
Because sometimes you don't know how your child responds in a classroom setting. So they could be reading, well, he does this, this, and this. And you're like, he doesn't do that at home. So it's
Exactly.
trying to learn some of that stuff as well outside of the classroom, so you know what to propose within the classroom, and kind of how to advocate in a world that you're not sitting in the classroom and looking at them.
Yes, and you're a team with the teachers. So you always want to. Let me tell you, I'm not saying there isn't a teacher or an educator that will tell you no, but I am saying that you're going to get 1,000 yeses from an educator if you're the parent that is too involved. Too, I want to be a part of your team. Yes, what are you working on right now? Because I'm going to work on
Hmm.
it at home. They're going to love that. They're always going to say yes.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times they're going to say yes, because for every one of us saying yes, I want to do the same thing as you at school. They they have three no's.
Yeah.
And not because the parent doesn't want to, or maybe some don't care to. There are a lot of parents that are too overworked, busy, multiple kids, they don't have the time to be like, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" But
Mm.
if you do, please communicate with that teacher,
Yes.
because you're making everybody's life, especially number 1, your child's life easier, because that routine of what they're working on in school then comes home. And it's the same thing with when you go to OT, when you go to speech, when I've been that mom from little. What are you working on? I used to get Amazon packages back in the days. Oh, you're working on Mr. Potato Head? Let me get a Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah.
Oh, you're working on puzzles? Oh, let me buy some puzzles. I was in Target. I was everywhere. Let me get puzzles. Let me get this. What are you working on right now? Why? Because that's a 30-minute increment in their life.
Yeah.
And even when they're doing well in that session, we're human. 2 days from now, I'm not going to remember what I just did. Now we got to go all over it again. But guess what?
Hmm.
If I did that 30 minutes, and I'm not saying, like you said, it's not homework all day long, but if
Yeah.
I just took what they did and I did like a 5 minute here, 10 minute there, child's not even realizing what they're doing is still part of their lesson from school.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're helping so much. You really are, because now when they go back to school, they're then doing the tasks at school, which might even allow them to unlock a different puzzle that maybe has more pieces or different colors, or might allow them to be able to do the next task that maybe includes blocks. Maybe it includes something different. And I've
Yep,
always wanted to
absolutely.
be very involved to let the teachers and, the reps there know that I'm on their side too. I do
Yep.
understand that as a parent, you're gonna say, "I want everything for my child." Totally fair. And the school district is also gonna be like, "You might be right, but it's what we can provide with the resources that we do have. Your kid does deserve all of this, but if your kid has 20 kids in the class, how do we give that much time and focus to one?" So it is on me, the parent, to then say, "What are you working on? Because I also wanna work on it." And now she's an amazing woman. I'll give her first name. Her first name's Susan. During our IEP meetings, she was in there as the rep for the person who's overseeing the AAC devices. She's the one who helps determine, do they go from, 24 pictures on the screen to 30 to 42. I'm
Wow.
actually working with her now on the communication board thing, because the communication boards are just bigger versions of AACs.
Mhm.
So now it's awesome that I get to work with her on helping all of these other kids across the city. And it's because I was
That's
a little
amazing.
more receptive and I was showing them day one that I knew how to walk in there and navigate the screens and change certain things, because I'm involved. I want to know what's going on. I want to help.
And because of that, the people around you are aligned to do the same as you because you're putting yourself out there, you're doing the work, and people recognize that. And you're so involved that they realize you're a tool. The same way you can use them, they're able to use you and work off of each other because you all have the same mission, which is amazing.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely helps. And it's been such an amazing school that it's made me and Kayla want to raise money to help give back, because it's less grants that they have to apply for, when maybe they need to worry about getting, it's not exactly the richest city that we live in. Maybe they need to fight to lower the cost of school lunches for people who can't afford them. Let me be the person who raises money for communication boards. Let's make sure kids aren't walking throughout the school day hungry. That's
Mhm.
bigger. So, trying to
Huge.
play the part and give back where you can. I think if you have enough parents doing that, you can create this unbelievable community, school system, atmosphere for all of our kids. Whether you're, neurotypical or neurodiverse, it's kind of our time to give back and do our part.
Yes, totally agree.
And I love what you did, because you had started a caregiver support group.
Yes.
Amongst the 1,000 things that you're doing right now, how did you come up with that idea?
Well, I was a award recipient of Amazon in fall of 2025, and I vowed to do and commit to a couple of things. And one was a autism awareness day because I had my first in 2025 in my county. We had never had one. And I vowed to not just do a second one, but I vowed to do a gala, a soiree, I'm calling it, a special soiree, hosting it in the month of Autism Awareness Day. But I am not limiting it to just people on the
Mm,
spectrum, just people with special needs in all ages. And that was the commitment I gave to Amazon. But then I said, you know what? I'm going to use this award and a little bit of the money to maybe host a caregiver support. See, in my county, we have to leave our local town to go into the next town that's a little bit bigger to do a lot of our stuff. But
mm, okay.
I I've been doing my businesses for a few years and in 2025 my goal was to focus on Newton County, which is the county I live in Georgia, and focus on Georgia, the Hispanic community, and certain things like that. So I set my goals for 2025, and that was part of it. So when I realized in order for us to have a caregiver support group, yeah, it's only 10, 15 minutes depending where you are, but it's the next county, it's the next city. Like, why do we have to do that? I love where I live. I pay
Mhm,
taxes here. The kids that go to the park or play with my son, or, while I'm eating pizza with my family, those kids live in this county.
mhm,
And we know that not all of our children can handle car rides. Not all of our children like to be strapped in, go somewhere else, or anything like that. So, my goal was let's start bringing things right here locally for us. And it is not a big agenda. It is a let's just connect, reset, leave everything at home. It is respite for the caregiver.
mm,
That's all it is. Coffee, some food, light snacks, and things like that. And yes, I'll have a business or opportunity for someone that offers caregivers or special needs families help, a resource of some kind, speak for a few minutes, but it is nothing about like selling you anything. No, we're literally sitting at the tables. I had moms and dads there on my last month, and it was just like, I need help with this, or my child is turning 18 soon and I never applied for guardianship. I know nothing about that. My son is 12, but guess what? There was a mom sitting at the table that said, "Oh, I just did it, girl. I'll help you." And
yeah,
that's exactly what it's about.
that is big. That's the community you need,
Yeah,
that
absolutely. Because we all know each other in one way or another. Certain things like that, like we may not have the same child, not even the same diagnosis, but eventually we're all going to need to apply for guardianship for our kids, right?
mhm,
Um, we've all experienced the wait list at the doctors or the school IEPs or the no one understands me. I don't have a sitter. Me and my husband don't have date nights. So this is an opportunity where you can even come to the support group with your kids. I have activity tables for the children, things for them to do, because I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, another thing I can't make it to.
which is such a real day to day,
Yep.
and you don't know sometimes because it's your life, so you can go like, it can hit you sometimes, right? Where you're just this is your life, this is what you do. There's no issues. It's just your life and what you do. And then you realize that sometimes you can't just stop everything and just go to the grocery store when you want. I still talk to friends that are like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go here this weekend, I'm gonna do that," and I'm like, "What?" Because I
Yeah.
can't imagine it. Like, right now, Coco is just kind of coming off a cold, but whenever he gets a cold, he gets scared, he has separation anxiety. So, you might not be able to leave the room for 3 to 4 hours. If you leave, he'll grab your leg, try to pull you back, 'cause he's afraid that you're gonna leave him in a vulnerable state of him not feeling well. You are his level of comfort in those situations. And there are sometimes, yeah, you're sitting on this hardwood floor for 4 hours and you can't feel your legs. So it's
Yeah.
amazing that you open that space for parents and guardians to then bring their kids there so that they can still be part of that community because it's so big.
Absolutely. And my first month, no one showed up. And as heartbreaking as that was, it was just motivation and fuel. Because in my mind, I'm like, did you not show up because you didn't know how it was going to turn out because it was the first one? Did you not show up because you were too busy looking for a sitter and you don't have one? I've always offered opportunity for children to come.
Mm,
But I also understand that there are some caregivers that are like, oh, but if the whole point is for me to relax, but I'm not gonna relax if my child or my loved one that I'm caring for is right there. So I also understand that. But I wanted people to know like things don't always pan out the first time. But when the mission is bigger then the turnout, one person is all it takes. I will
mm,
continue to put up the space. I have an amazing recreation center that offered me a space at no cost to my organization. I just come in, I give my dates for the year in advance. I literally blocked out my year and I come in, do my setup, provide the food, the snacks, put my little tables together for the kids' activities, and have my little giveaways. And if one person makes it through that door, I'm happy. I'm happy because all it takes is one person to feel like they needed to be seen, heard, connect, and that is good.
I couldn't agree more.
Mhm.
I said the same thing about doing the podcast. I was like, if one person watches, that's awesome, because I have fun doing it.
Yep.
I get to talk to people like you. Like, that's the point of being able to do this, is to connect and hear about someone's journey and to learn from people through all walks of life. Everyone does different things. We're all from different places. And then you find out that there's a lot of commonality just as humans, but definitely between special needs parents and in some of the battles that we'll go through on a day-to-day basis. But one person, I mean, even if people didn't show up,
That's all
I'd
it
put up a
takes.
screen for people to log in. I would log in from Massachusetts. Like, "Hey,
Yeah,
everybody."
you know, I had people ask me already, a few people on I think it was on TikTok, and they were like, "Are you doing it virtual? Because I would join." And I'm like, "Well, maybe I have to open it up virtually, right?" Like, who
Yeah,
knows what
have a
2026 is gonna bring.
moderator there. Yeah, have a moderator there
Yeah.
just commenting to everyone. Put in a camera that just swivels with whoever's talking in the room.
Yes,
You know?
exactly.
There's a
You
lot
never
of
know.
you
I
never
might
know.
host another day right from my house, and you never know.
Yeah. You open up the possibilities, and if especially, I mean, we'll talk about when you speak internationally, you start having people just logging in, you know?
Absolutely.
J
But you know how this goes. You know, you started one way, invested in your son and then ended up
Mhm.
saying, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna turn it into a podcast. And now I'm doing Coco's communication boards, right? Like
Yeah.
you start with this small seed, you
Mm,
plant it and you believe and you water it because it's so genuine. It's like, you know, that analogy, I never really got it until like right now. Because when you
yeah,
plant the seed, it's not about it growing. The term of having a green thumb in real life, when you are planting, people say, well, I don't, I'm not good at it. Like it doesn't come out. It's no, it's because it doesn't come from here. When
yeah,
you are planting something with the great intentions behind it, when you are believing in what you're doing, when you're watering your plant in real life tangibly, it is the same thing. You're sowing that seed, you're planting it, you're watering it, and then it flourishes. And with that, you get all these branches. I started with one book. And my purpose of that one book was my son has like 12 specialists, multiple conditions. How do I explain this to this kid? I would take him to the library and I didn't have an autism diagnosis then, but I would be like, I don't really see no books on microcephaly. His small head size didn't grow. Okay. I was like, oh, I don't really see no sentences, no books on EOE, Uh I really don't see no books on this heart condition my son was born with. I was like, what do I do? And I said, how about I make a book about multiple disabilities of all kind, including undiagnosed rare disease like my son. And I thought it was a book. And in the midst of creating my characters, I was like, well, maybe this could be a series. And that became well, how do I publish these books? And when I got approached to publish and sign, I said, I don't want to give the rights to my story. It's my life. It's my son.
yeah.
Can't. I don't want to do that. I said, well, maybe I'll turn it down. And I turned down two book offers, two book deals, and I
Mm,
self-published. But then I said, well, I'm going to create an LLC so that way, not just royalties, but anything I do relating to these books, whether I go read about these books or walk into a school, a conference, then the business gets recognized. And I did that. And then it turned into multiple books. And I said, you know what? It's never been about the money. It's about giving back. It's about, awareness and inclusion. So maybe I should do a nonprofit. And
mm.
that's how I ended up with Helping Swans.
I'm gonna have to pick your brain on some of that stuff. I think I'm just now starting to kind of head down that path of what I wanna do to kind of protect what we're doing, or to have an umbrella for what we're doing. Because, like you talked about with the seed, and when it's that pure, something good is gonna come from it. It may not be exactly what you expected, it might not happen in the time that you wanna do it, but what we're doing is for a reason, and it's for a person and for a group of people and parents that need it. So it's
Yes.
I I had no idea what I was doing, but I was willing to make a mess of it because I knew it was the right thing to do. So I just gotta start this GoFundMe and throw it out there and let's see what can happen from it. And in many ways, like, you start going there and EOE, is that eosinophilic esophagitis?
Yep.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
so it's like, yeah, you're not finding books on the shelves that are talking about that, and then you start creating your artwork, and that was something I wanted to ask you about with the publishing of these books because that in itself becomes its own process
Mhm.
of what you're doing. So
An
you
expensive one too.
that and good for you because it's nothing that you're offered a book deal to do this before you start even doing it.
Mhm.
You just start embarking on this journey to fill what you don't see to then put your son's world
Absolutely.
out there, you know?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What was it like when you published your first ever book when, when you get that hard copy in your hand and you're looking and you're like, "This is real?"
It's surreal. It was I had a moment when my daughter I have an older daughter, and, when she was in high school, my son was born. And one of her projects for school was create a book. And I used my son's story, and I still have pictures of the book. Unfortunately, the school kept it because they thought the project was amazing. And I can't get my hands on it. I cannot. I tried calling the school and everything, but the book, I actually took out characters from another story, right? Like a cartoon or something. But I just took out the character that kind of resembled my son, like glasses and something like that. And we created this amazing story about a kid with disabilities that was going to be amazing and is amazing, and despite of judgments and people, he was going to flourish. And I had no idea that that book, I didn't just give my daughter the idea and help her with it. It was already embedded in me, and it was going to come to life.
Mhm.
So it didn't my daughter was a teen. My daughter's 26 now. It was probably like 6, 7 years later where I was like, I'm going to write this book. And when I received the copy, I had a whole like book thing in my house, and my family came and everybody was so excited. And after that, the momentum of like writing the book and everything was super exciting, but receiving it felt like I miss so many subjects. I need to write another book because I need people to know about this, or I want people to know about that. And it it fuels me, to
Yeah,
say the least.
yeah. No, it's I don't know many people who have written books. I have a buddy, Billy Pinkney, he's written books. I gotta see if I have it right. I have it right here. So I had him on the podcast. He's an amazing kid, and the background story of that is when I played professional baseball, he was the bat boy. He was like 10, 11
Nice.
years old, 12 years old, and we treated him like one of the guys. He had a place with us, and he loved baseball so much. He never played at the highest level, and like AJ's like, maybe someday I can commentate on it. Maybe I can be a part of it. And he's very successful with what he does. And he wrote this book called Billy the Bat Boy Includes Others. And he
Oh my God, I
and
love that.
and he dedicated it to Cole.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
so that was yeah, in the dedications he put that this book was dedicated to Cece and his son Cole, and it was one of the most
I need you to send me all this information, please.
yeah, it was
This is amazing.
and it was similar and I'd seen that you were doing it as well in other ways, and it's such an amazing thing that that you're doing, and it impacts and it hits home. It really does. It's
Yeah.
such a beautiful thing, and there's not enough people who are doing it, to be honest, and then to
Yeah.
to highlight
Absolutely.
to highlight your son and all of that, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah,
It
and,
really
being
is.
able to tap into other conditions, a lot of people don't realize when I first started that book, it was just like it was everyone I know. So I have a cousin with Down syndrome, and so in my book, I there's a kid with Down syndrome. There's a girl in a motor scooter with muscular dystrophy. There is a hearing aid. There is cerebral palsy, which my niece has. So it's just autism after my nephew, not just my son, because I
Mm,
wanted two different diagnoses. I wanted the rare undiagnosed kid because there is no books about a rare undiagnosed child. And
yes.
you don't realize how many people are living undiagnosed until you become that person looking for a diagnosis, right? And people
Yeah.
live sometimes their entire lives without a title.
Mhm.
Many years. And I'm very fortunate that my son was able to get a diagnosis, but it took 11 years. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, the diagnosis doesn't change anything, but
no,
in our family too, like because Cole's the first diagnosed, doesn't mean he's the first one that, we call it like
period.
stuff. We call it stuff, like you
Yeah,
got stuff,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
because I know in many ways, like, I'm OCD. I have that. I You start to learn a little bit more about yourself, right? You start to open up and
Uh-huh.
say, okay, like you can kind of face some of the things that you do have when it's more so presented within your family. And
Yes, absolutely.
that's a big thing. And yeah, you come from a background of having some of those disabilities in your family. So for you to write these books and represent these people that are, I don't think I can say it enough, are significantly underrepresented in these books. Bless you, because we need
Thank
that. We
you.
need we need these kids to open up these books and see that they are a part of what's going on and they're not invisible.
Yes. I mean, when I read my books, when I go to schools and I talk about invisible disabilities, I don't ever tell the students that I am disabled. I wait till the very end. And then I say, so what did you think about this? They love the book so much that they end up telling me. I've had a student saying, I used to have asthma when I was very little. I'm disabled because they thought it was cool. Or I had a kid tell me, when I go swimming, I have to put the things in my ear because I get infections a lot. Am I disabled too? And I'm just like, I'm not here to try to tell you disabilities are cool. Let's be
Yeah.
real. Like they're not cool, but if you had a choice of waking up and being limited on something or not limited, of
Mhm.
course. I don't know anybody that's going to say, "Oh, I want to wake up like that." No, of course if you had a choice, but I want you to know we are just as cool as you. And I always end up with that. We're just as cool as you. And they're like, what do you mean we? And I'm like, well, what do you think about me? They're like, you're so pretty, or I like your hair, or, like kids, school stuff. I wear sneakers. They're like, I like your sneakers. And I was like, anything else you notice about me? They're like, no. I was like, do I look or sound disabled? And they're like, no. Are you disabled? And I always get the whole like, oh my God. And they can't understand it.
Mhm.
And they were like, but how? And then I go into like, if a person wants to explain stuff to you, they can, but don't feel comfortable to always ask people that because you shouldn't.
Mhm.
And you should just take, for face value when a person tells you that they have a disability, or if you see someone in the handicap parking space or sitting, like I've had people roll their eyes at my son and me because we were sitting in the airport, the the last chair on the rows are usually the
Mhm.
handicap chairs,
Yep.
right? So I've had people roll their eyes at me because either my son is in his wheelchair and I'm sitting in the handicap chair and they just look at me. And one lady told my son, you shouldn't be occupying a seat for a handicapped person. And
Yeah.
so being able to tell and teach and educate children on all of that, we don't have that enough. And even in our community, we may see it in social media. We may, like, I feel like everyone I know is an author, an advocate, whatever. But that's because I'm surrounding myself with all these amazing people, not
Yeah.
because we are in an abundance in places. We're not. Absolutely not. We need more of us.
Yeah. It's just like when you buy a new car, you start seeing that car everywhere. You're like, "Everyone has this car now?"
Yes.
It's that. You
Absolutely. Yep.
start surrounding yourself around the people who are it's the same thing at work. You start surrounding yourself with people that do similar jobs and have similar backgrounds, and like, I
Uh-huh.
was a baseball player. I hung out with all baseball players for the most part, and so now it's the same thing. I love spending time and talking to special needs parents when you can get a hold of them.
Yeah,
The tougher
exactly.
the tougher part is talking to many of the dads because, some of them aren't as active within the community and what's going on and stuff like that, and that's, it's understandable, but, you end up talking to more of the moms because they're paying attention to a lot of the day-to-day things as well, so
Yeah.
you're trying to find that balance, but it sounds like you also need to, it's not about just teaching kids, you also gotta teach the parents, because if that
Yeah.
woman's saying things to you, it's like, you know
Do you
that
know, like, one of my books, I've had someone, not one of my books, but a few times where parents were like, "I was reading this book to my kid," and I was just like, "Man, I have a book that talks about just going to a children's hospital more frequently than your average person,
mm,
and then this could be applied for an autistic child, going to therapy more often and seeing, always having to do, let's go here. We have to spend the day there, those kind of appointments. And that parent's like, man, I was supposed to be teaching my kid, but I kind of learned the thing or two from your books. And I'm like, thank you. And it's just an appreciation books on healthcare and the professionals that go in and how much emphasis it takes into painting the walls, making them pretty at the children's hospital, or the therapist having all the gadgets and things to make the kid feel comfortable and wanting to be
mhm,
there, and how you can make it fun and start like traditions with your child or little things like that. And it's just, I get parents that tell me all the time, man, I learned something new because in the back of my books, I always put um like kind of like a little vocabulary and a breakdown of everything. So like Down
oh, yeah,
syndrome gets an explanation in the back of the book, but it's kind of like in easy terms where children can understand it and adults can break it down to a child easier. So,
mm, yeah. No, it's very important because parents learning as well is the reinforcement that the kids are gonna have. For the most part, kids are usually gonna be fine, right? Like, they're gonna
yes,
if they can learn to understand, it's a good thing, but sometimes it also has to be taught from the parents and at home, that level of acceptance, awareness, and having some of that information. Kids, if they see someone different and they point, that will happen. But how is
yeah.
the parent gonna react to that? Even in our own family dynamics. So I have a nephew they're close by, um, but he's like 6.5, and Cole's 5. So then the question becomes is, when the 6.5-year-old who wants to hang out with 10-year-olds is now hanging out with a 5-year-old that is maybe not doing, the neurotypical 5-year-old things, how is that explained by his uncle, and how is that gonna be explained by his father? And if we are
Mm,
not the ones who can explain it to him, how do you expect the world to? So it's amazing that you're putting that
exactly.
in your books to then teach a parent, because it's not part of
Hmm.
most of these people's world. So if we can
Yeah,
kind of help them out a little bit of like, "Hey, this is kinda how you would explain it," then it creates that level of awareness.
absolutely. I tell people all the time, don't buy, when I get hired for readings in school specifically, I always tell them, don't put me in a class with special needs kids. Not that I don't want to read to them. Like, if you're giving me 6 classes to read to, and one of them is special needs, okay, but don't set me up for all special needs classes because guess what? And I tell them, I'm not discriminating. I will read to them all day,
Yeah.
but they know what they have. We're trying to teach the kids that are unaware of how
Ye
to interact, how to
yes.
respect, how to be aware, how it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to say,
Mhm.
I've had kids tell my son, why do you make those noises? Does it feel like good or whatever? It is how you ask them. It's
Yeah.
not ew, why do you make those noises? It is,
Yeah.
hey, why do you make those noises? And my son, I drilled it into him enough so he can advocate for himself. So instead of if somebody's picking on him or making a comment like that, he'll educate them and say, hey, do you know I have autism? And that makes me feel good. And this is called stimming. Like he
Mhm.
literally will tell them that. So,
That's awesome. Self-advocacy is such a big thing
mhm.
if you have the ability to do it because it creates that level of awareness for yourself, but to then be able to put it into words for other people. Because yeah, to your point, the books are not just for the people that they represent. It's to kind of show and shed light for the people who it's not part of their life. And that's, one reason why I talked to you earlier about me finally getting on Instagram and kind of sharing the world because normalizing it to the people that are around us is just isn't it's very important, but it will also help our children in their day to day when they walk this world,
Mhm.
right? For the more people who become aware of it, the better off they'll be as well.
Yes.
And that being said, you were recognized by the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
So
I was.
you become recognized. And what was the occurrence that led to you being recognized?
I received an honorable mention. They do a top 50 Latinos of Georgia, and then they do honorable mentions. So honorable mentions kind of don't make the top 50, but they're like, man, you doing so well. Like,
Yeah.
how could we not like include you? So it was an amazing day. Like being in Georgia, we got to go to the Braves field. Um, you know, and get recognized, get all the luxuries and pictures and food and just whole recognition for my state as a Latina. I have put myself in places where I am the only Latina. And I think that's
Right.
where the Georgia Hispanic Chamber said, hey, we recognize what you're doing. And in my city, my county specifically, or just leaving and traveling from here to Spain or wherever, doing what I do and representing little old me is just like, yes, this Latina's doing it, you know. Here in we have a theater called Fox Theater, and it's been around I think 100 years. And this is the first year that they have started a Latino community ambassador like program where Latinos have a voice as far as what they should and should not do to elevate the experience and to be inclusive to the Hispanic community. And
Mm.
I was elected to be part of that. So I think
Wow.
that Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce saw that and they're all for it, recognize me for it. So I'm very grateful.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, your good work travels. It really does.
Thank
It's
you.
great to be recognized. I know it's not what you might be doing it for. It tends to
Yes.
come with the territory of what you're doing and the impacts that you're making. Because from my understanding, you were recently honored with the Life Impact Mom of the Year award by the Global
Yes.
Autism Mom Awards in 2025. Are you kidding me? What was
Yes.
what was
Oh my
that
God.
what was that experience like? Because
Oh
that's
my
that's
God.
such that's an amazing
I
award.
got the news while I was driving and I like had to pull over. I cried. I couldn't open it. I was shaken. Um the Autism Badass Mom community is an amazing community. And eventually there's going to be Autism Badass Dad and I'm just putting it out there, right?
Yeah.
But they're an amazing community and I was able to do a conference last year. It was just phenomenal. Like the amount of love and everybody pouring in and learning from each other. So just to be a part of the community is great. Um, being recognized or nominated is even better, but winning life impact based on the work that I'm leaving behind, the legacy, the when you write that first book, your name is on a book. And I told everyone, When I wrote that book, my son was undiagnosed. And I said, we may never get the name to his diagnosis, but people will always remember his name, AJ. Awesome AJ. And
Mm,
I just said that. And that's been my motto. I may never have the name, which I do now, but I always said people will remember awesome AJ. You're going to remember awesome AJ. We're so worried about the day that we're not here. And I'm prepping.
mhm,
If I'm not here, praying that he's going to be okay, but praying that people will forever know or learn from things that I've already walked through so you don't have to walk through it. So
mhm.
receiving that award, being knowing that that award will be with me and my family forever. Having a grandson diagnosed in 2025 autistic, the work that I'm doing is for generations to come. And that award
Yes.
is that.
Ah, that's such an amazing feat, and, like
And I'm
and you're still going. It's not
I am
50, 60 years of your hard work and this has happened, like, you're still at it full force type of thing, so it's like, your job is still happening for you. Right, that's
every day.
amazing 'cause it's like well, we talked about too, it's like when you plant the seed, it grows and consistently goes into different things that maybe you never even intentionally got into, but who knows what you're gonna be doing in 3 years, 5 years from now, and these
If
are the
if I would have
awards
told
that
you,
you
yeah, yep.
yeah,
Sorry about
like,
that.
and these are the awards that you're receiving now. Who knows what's to come and what other advocacy work you're gonna get into in the meantime? Because like we kinda touched on a little bit earlier, like, you are a true advocate and you're already speaking internationally. When you do travel, does your message change, or what are some of the key points that you're looking to get across when you're speaking about autism to a parent from any corner of the earth?
I think the universal language and key points that I always suggest that I think is the most attainable, relatable, and like doesn't matter what we speak. Um, you know your child. Doctors, therapists, evaluations, they get a snippet of what
Mm,
you see every day. Don't hold back on what you see and what you feel and have observed because they're only going to go by the things you tell them. So if you tell them too little, they don't have much to work with. They're going to base their opinion off of that. You can never
mhm,
overtell. You can never tell too much. They're going to take everything you tell them and may nitpick at some stuff they find important, but it's better to overshare than limit what you're sharing. That's one.
yes,
Two, um, your money, your bank account, none of that means diddly squat when it comes to getting diagnosed.
mhm,
Your diagnosis for your child is the same diagnosis as another level one, level two, level three. Doesn't matter. Your background doesn't matter. Your education doesn't matter. I know doctors with children on the spectrum. I know a judge with a child on the spectrum. I know models. I know teenagers with no jobs and their child came out on the spectrum.
mhm,
Doesn't matter. It's the spectrum is not biased. It's not asking you for permission. It's just coming. So you just got to get with the program. You got to get with the program. You have to see what works for your family. And number three, put yourself out there to get the help that your child needs. You can't wait. You have to do what we said earlier. You have to work at home. You have to work alongside schools, teachers. This is a team collective effort.
mm,
And sometimes we feel like, and I say this in all my events, we feel like we sometimes don't belong at the table. Me being a Latina sitting at a table where the room is led by men, led by all Caucasian men, let's
mhm,
just say. And I am that one Latina sitting in the room. Sometimes you don't feel like you belong. But when it comes to your children, your child is the table. Without your child, no one sits.
Mhm. Yeah.
And everyone can relate to that.
And
There's nobody's
woman in that sense. Right,
yes,
I don't think we can be blind. I don't think that happens at every single table, but I think we've all been at tables where you might understand that that could be something that's overlooked, to be fair.
minority, minority, woman of color, Latina, disabled.
Yeah. You
There's
kinda
so
got
many things
all
that
strikes against you
yeah.
to be
And I'm
to
gonna
be
sit
fair.
there
I mean,
very
if
proudly
there
every single time.
listen, if there's a checklist that some some old guy is going based off of, like, well, I mean, she checks all the boxes, but she's sitting at this table. Right? Totally
Listen,
totally fair. I'm half white, so I know what it's like to be at a table with white people and you're good. I also know what it's like to be at a whiter table where you're not so good. And but that's why I can openly say, and don't forget that you're also a woman in that situation, which at certain
yeah,
tables can be perceived as something different. So,
absolutely,
bless you for doing that
absolutely.
because you've had every
Thank you.
excuse to say, "It's not gonna work. I'm a Latina. I'm a woman of color. I'm disabled. I have a disabled child." You have every reason to be like, "It's just not gonna they're not gonna listen to me." But
Yeah,
when you have someone with that and that fight, the ground that you can gain is almost unbelievable.
absolutely.
And I played,
It's so much easier to just sit at home, collect my retirement, watch over my son, and attend his therapies. Yes, I'm not saying that that would be 100% easy, but it would be a lot easier. I take on a lot of stuff, and I
mhm.
say that that is my ability with my ADHD. I take it all on, and I will continue to take it all on because I know that is for the greater good.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Yep. I experienced a lot in, like, the Hispanic community when I played because I played college baseball in Miami. So I know
Thanks. That's where I'm from.
y yeah, I lived, God, a couple different areas when I was there. I went to Miami-Dade Community College.
Me too.
Yes, the Kendall so
Wow,
the Kendall
alumni. Okay.
so the Kendall campus is where the
Yes.
baseball group was, but, my buddy CJ who was on here, I lived at his house, and we went all over Miami. We hung around Richmond Heights. For those who don't know, maybe you don't wanna know. Um, so but just yeah, we weren't far from the people who are listening that don't really know a lot of the ins and outs of Miami. We were probably 20 minutes from South Beach, around that area. But, yeah, so you went to Dade too. What
I
campus?
did. I actually did. Well, I graduated from Broward College, but I
Okay.
went to Miami-Dade for correctional officer. I was a correction officer and I did the law enforcement police crossover academy, and that's where I graduated as a cop in Miami-Dade.
Wow.
So I'm from New York, but I lived prior to Georgia, I lived in Miami for 15 years.
That's my buddy CJ. New York, Miami, now he's back in New York, has a training facility out there for baseball and athletes, and
Oh, that's
yeah, we used
awesome.
to play Broward. So,
Oh,
in our conferences, we played,
yeah.
a couple different we played South Florida, Broward, West Palm Beach, a couple of those different locations. I'm sure you're
Nice.
familiar with it, but yeah, I lived down in Miami for 2 years and absolutely loved it. One of the things I had to
That's
get used
awesome.
to, because 'cause I'm from Massachusetts, so we don't have it, is at night when you're walking and you just hear in the bushes, and you have
Oh,
all those
yeah.
little lizards and
Yep.
iguanas and all that. It used to freak me out at first because I had to get used to it.
Yeah.
And then
Let's hear it. I mean, I don't know what we calling it here in Georgia because I have a lot of land here and I have a lot of trees and it could be summer, you hear it. It could be winter, you hear it all the time.
You're like, I don't know if it's a spider, a person.
I know, right?
Oh man.
You learn.
Yeah, Miami was amazing. I was chased by a peacock one time, and I'm glad it was before people went viral with clips, because this was probably like
Oh my God.
2006. You know, it was like 2006. I was walking to class one day because one of my buddies was sick, so he couldn't drive me, and I'm walking to school.
Man, that's crazy. I was in Miami-Dade in 2005 at school in 2005. That's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I started in August of 2006, and I graduated kinda, sorta, just depending on baseball, in, like, June 2008. Yep. So,
2008 is when I became disabled.
there
Yeah.
you go. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Small world, right?
Small world. Timing.
Small world. Oh, yeah. I loved it. I loved it there. And let me ask you this. I know that all of our experiences are different as parents, even though we all fall within the spectrum, and there's a lot of similarities, don't get me wrong. But like, what's something that you've learned in time that maybe you wish you knew when it's tough to say because you didn't respond once AJ was diagnosed. But what's something that maybe you knew a little bit early on that you know now that might be helpful for maybe another parent, of like, just a piece of advice that you might give?
Piece of advice that I would probably say I learned early on, pick and choose your battles.
Mm,
Because that's advice I'm giving my daughter. You got to pick and choose your battles, hon. Like, am I going to cry or like make my child do something that maybe makes them uncomfortable or whatever the case may be because of society or because we're at this place and I don't need him to have a meltdown or because I'm gonna pick and choose my battles, baby. You
yeah.
gonna have that? You want your tablet for the next 2 hours? Okay, I'm not gonna take it away from you because guess what? We've already had a great day, and just not gonna do it. It's just life is stressful enough. Life is overwhelming enough. These appointments are overwhelming. The world is overwhelming. Standing on the grocery store can be overwhelming. Whispers and eye stares are overwhelming. Guess what?
Mhm.
The last thing I'm gonna do is stress my son out anymore and in return cause me stress. So pick and choose your battles.
I love that. I talk about it all the time with people about how me and Coco will sit on the Target floor or whatever it is. If he needs to stop and play with a stuffed animal and have, some, like, they're cheddar bunnies, but like his goldfish essentially, and just stop and have a snack in the middle of the store, I sit on the ground with him. And you build up that tough skin. And I know that the stares are always there. The first time I received stares, it was, you kind of want to fight the world. And then you
Um,
start to realize, like, they don't really bother me anymore. For him to know how comfortable I am doing whatever he wants to do, there's plenty of room in the world for everyone.
uh-huh.
And if you want to stare at me, go ahead, because like I said, I let things kind of ricochet off me. I'm like, I'm probably never going to see you again. I'm not going to argue with. What am I going to
Yeah,
argue with you for? You going to tell me something? You don't know what you're doing. I'm going to take your advice. I'm like, we're going to hang out here.
exactly.
We're going to play. We're going to be okay. I 100% agree with that piece of advice. It's something that I try to take on every day myself, of like, don't worry about the quote unquote social norms. Pick and choose your battles. That's
Uh-huh.
perfect.
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely.
And what's a message that you would like to leave your children or grandchildren? Something that maybe you tell them every day, maybe you don't get to tell them every day, but if they were to watch this in 20 years and you're sitting with them in watching this, what's something that you would want them to know or take from it?
Ooh, that's emotional for me. Okay. I think I would want my children and grandchildren to know that I started all of this for you. And in the end, it is for all children, for all people, for equality, for accessibility and inclusivity. And I just pray that I led by example and that you too, whether you can self advocate or express that you need help in advocating, um, get to live a better life because of the efforts that I made and get to create the spaces that you deserve to be in.
Mm, love it. Yeah, it's so big because sometimes the work you're doing right now, they might not see. And
Uh-huh.
who knows how much they'll recognize some of the sacrifices and the emotions that you go through just to put yourself at that table that you're
Yeah,
talking about, right? Some people don't understand what it's like to make it to that table and then to even have a voice at that table. It's such a powerful thing. It it really is. I get caught up and I get emotional when talking about for Eric's ID law to pass in the state of Massachusetts for, maybe in 14 years from now, my son will be able to look down at that ID and know his father had a part in it. Maybe
amazing.
not to get the full recognition because it's for so many people, but maybe someday he'll understand how much we fought, how much you fought for your children and grandchildren to get that much more respect and empathy from the world.
Absolutely. And he will. Your son will know all the
We're
efforts that you
hoping
did.
we're doing a lot of good work and we're hoping that we can make an impact. That's all you can hope for.
Absolutely.
And to touch base on that, just to just to kind of rub salt in the wound of emotion, what's a message that you would like to leave your husband that maybe you get to tell him every day, maybe you don't, but um for someone who's walking this journey with you?
Man, shout out to all the dads, but shout out to the step parents that walk into this life knowing what they're walking into and have an option.
Mm,
I'm not saying us as parents have options. Sometimes mom and dad don't work out, and sometimes one parent is not really involved, but to take it on head on. My husband, you are amazing. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. And thank you for holding my hand. And most importantly, thank you for holding my children's hands, both of them, my adult daughter and my son. And I just hope that you view me the same way when it comes to his son, because we're a blended family and we do anything for each other. So,
mm.
and it's a choice. So thank you.
That's a special thing because, like you said, it's
Yeah.
it's a choice. It's different when you're born into it. It's different when it's maybe biologically your child, but when you choose that person in that family in that fight, that's a special thing. It's how you know
He's
you
gone to appointments when I can't go to appointments. He's done feeding therapy for weeks at the hospital every day with my son when I couldn't go.
Wow.
So when I
Wow.
say that it's a choice and he does it like a badge of honor, he does it.
That's amazing. Wow. That's beautiful.
I hit the lotto.
There you go. Yes, that is
I gotta
amazing.
remind myself, okay, I hit the lotto. I sure did. I sure did.
He's like, "Where's my awards?"
Yes. Where's my awards, right?
You
Absolutely.
have to make him one. That's
Yes.
amazing. But no, it's amazing people can end up together, right? Some
Thank you.
some
And he's my road drive. He's the person that said, "Here, open up an LLC. I believe in you. Do this, do that." He has that mindset, and if it
Mm,
wasn't for him, it snowballed after that. because he saw what I knew I was capable, he saw it long before.
'Cause he knows you,
Uh-huh.
capabilities, the drive, the passion, the pursuit, the persistence is what you need too, that strength and endurance to do it too.
Uh-huh.
Everyone can have a great idea. It
Yes.
pops in everyone's head. It's the people who follow through and do it, and then a lot of the times you start to realize that there are strong people, men or women, depending on whoever's running that race, that there are strong people behind them with levels of support. And sometimes that's what can help fuel us to get to that next step.
Yep.
That's amazing. And for your journey, I know you have so much going on. I follow you, so it's a little bit easier for me to keep track of certain things and watch and kind of travel with you in certain ways. Where can people follow your journey, whether it's on Instagram, websites,
Right.
galas?
um, on all like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Mom Advocate Marlene. I try to keep the same handle. And my website is helpingswans.com. On all my social media handles in my bio, I have my link tree, which will show you all my work, whether it's a magazine article, a new venture, an opportunity, anything that I'm trying to do. I try to keep up with it. It's a lot. Um, on LinkedIn, it's Marlene Soto Riera, my name, and that's about it.
That's perfect. Arlene, I want to thank you for being on tonight. It's been amazing picking
Thank
your brain and
you.
hearing your journey. I'm going to continue to follow. I have to reach out to you because I'm going to have to learn more about LLCs and nonprofits and everything that we have going
Any
on.
Anytime. I love what you're doing. I'm going to get as involved as I can with whatever you need help with, and vice versa. I'm going to reach out to you as well. I have some things in my brain going.
Yes, that's amazing. Yeah, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and we'll talk
Thank
soon.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.